In the year 711, a new chapter began on the Iberian Peninsula, what we now know as Spain and Portugal. A small force of Arabs and Berbers, led by the general Tariq ibn Ziyad, crossed the narrow strait of water from North Africa. This strait would later be named after him, Jabal Tariq, or Tariq's Mountain, which we know today as Gibraltar. They came at the request of one of the Visigothic factions who were fighting for control of the kingdom. This arrival, however, was not just a military campaign, it was the beginning of a profound cultural transformation that would last for nearly 8 centuries. The land they came to rule would be called Al-Andalus, and its story is one of extraordinary creativity, collaboration, and brilliance. The Visigothic kingdom that had ruled the peninsula for centuries was weak and divided by internal conflicts. This made it easier for the newcomers, who were soon called the Moors, to establish control. Within just a few years they had conquered most of the peninsula. They did not arrive as destroyers, but as builders of a new society. They brought with them the dynamic energy of a young Islamic civilization that was hungry for knowledge and open to new ideas. This was not a conquest that aimed to erase what came before. Instead, it planted the seeds for something entirely new to grow, a unique blend of cultures that would become a beacon of light in medieval Europe. The establishment of Moorish rule was not a simple replacement of one power with another, it was a complex process of negotiation and adaptation. Many local lords and communities chose to make treaties with the new rulers rather than fight them. These agreements allowed them to keep their lands, their laws, and their Christian faith in exchange for paying a tax. This practical approach laid the foundation for a society where different peoples could live alongside one another. This early period set the stage for the remarkable era of cooperation that would later define Al-Andalus, creating a space where diverse traditions could meet and mingle in surprising and productive ways. From these early days, the identity of Al-Andalus began to form. It was a place that was part of the wider Islamic world, connected to the great intellectual centers of Damascus and Baghdad, yet it was also distinctly European. This unique position at the crossroads of continents and cultures was its greatest strength. The Moors brought with them new administrative skills, advanced agricultural techniques, and a deep respect for learning. They were about to build a society that would not only preserve the great knowledge of the past, but would also create new knowledge that would eventually help pull the rest of Europe out of its so-called Dark Ages and into the light of the Renaissance. In the heart of Al-Andalus, one city rose to become the undisputed center of this new world, Cordoba. Under the rule of the Umayyad dynasty, which had established an independent emirate in 756, Cordoba was transformed from a modest provincial town into a global metropolis. By the 10th century, it was perhaps the largest and most advanced city in all of Europe. Visitors from the north were astonished by what they saw. The city had paved streets, illuminated by streetlights at night, something unheard of in cities like Paris or London at the time. It was a place of immense wealth, sophistication, and most importantly, intellect. Cordoba was not just a capital, it was the vibrant heart of a golden age. The city's splendor was a direct result of the vision of its rulers, especially Abd al-Rahman III. In 929 he declared himself caliph, making Cordoba the capital of a powerful caliphate that rivaled those of Baghdad and Cairo. This act was a declaration of both political and cultural independence. The caliph poured vast resources into making his capital a city worthy of its status. He expanded the Great Mosque, a breathtaking architectural masterpiece, and built the magnificent palace city of Madinat al-Zahra just outside Cordoba. These grand projects attracted the best architects, artisans, and laborers, turning the city into a bustling hub of activity and innovation. What truly made Cordoba special, however, was its atmosphere of intellectual freedom and its passion for knowledge. The city boasted dozens of libraries, the largest of which, the Caliph's Library, was said to contain over 400,000 books. This was a staggering number at a time when the largest monastery libraries in Christian Europe might have only a few hundred manuscripts. Scholars, poets, and scientists from all over the Islamic world and from Jewish and Christian communities flocked to Cordoba. They came to study, to debate, and to access the vast collections of books that held the wisdom of ancient Greece, Persia, and India, all translated into Arabic. Life in Cordoba was a spectacle of urban sophistication. The city had hundreds of public baths, hospitals, and bustling markets known as souks, where one could buy goods from as far away as China and India. Its gardens were lush with new types of plants and flowers introduced by the Moors, irrigated by complex water systems. This high standard of living, combined with the city's rich cultural and intellectual life, made it a true ornament of the world. For a time, Cordoba was the place where the future was being forged, a city where the light of civilization shone its brightest during Europe's medieval period. The Golden Age of Al-Andalus was defined by an explosion of intellectual and scientific discovery. While much of Europe was in a period of relative stagnation, the scholars of Moorish Spain were making groundbreaking advances in nearly every field of human knowledge. They were not just preserving ancient texts, they were actively building upon them, questioning old ideas and proposing new ones. This spirit of inquiry was fueled by the Caliphate's patronage, and by a culture that deeply valued learning. The pursuit of knowledge was seen as a noble endeavor, and scientists, doctors, and philosophers were among the most respected members of society. In the field of medicine, Al-Andalus was centuries ahead of the rest of Europe. Its cities had well-organized hospitals that provided free care to the sick, with separate wards for different diseases. Physicians in Cordoba and other cities understood the importance of hygiene and quarantine. They developed advanced surgical techniques and invented many new surgical instruments. They also compiled vast medical encyclopedias that detailed symptoms, diagnoses, and treatments for countless illnesses. These works were based on careful observation and practical experience, representing a truly scientific approach to healing that was far removed from the superstition that often passed for medicine elsewhere. Philosophy and the sciences also thrived in this vibrant intellectual environment. Scholars in Al-Andalus eagerly translated the works of ancient Greek thinkers like Aristotle, Plato, and Euclid into Arabic. But they did more than just translate. They wrote extensive commentaries, debated the ideas, and worked to reconcile Greek rationalism with Islamic theology. This led to a rich philosophical tradition that explored the biggest questions of existence, ethics, and logic. In mathematics, they introduced Arabic numerals, including the crucial concept of zero, to Europe, which revolutionized calculation and laid the groundwork for more complex mathematical disciplines like algebra and trigonometry. Agriculture was another area of incredible innovation. The Moors introduced a host of new crops to Spain, including oranges, lemons, peaches, apricots, figs, sugarcane, cotton, and rice. To grow these crops in the dry Spanish climate, they engineered sophisticated irrigation systems, with water wheels, canals, and underground channels. These techniques transformed the landscape, turning arid plains into fertile gardens and productive farmlands. This agricultural revolution not only improved the diet and economy of Al-Andalus, but also left a lasting mark on the Spanish landscape that is still visible today. The brilliance of Al-Andalus is best understood through the lives and works of the extraordinary individuals who lived there. These were the giants on whose shoulders later European thinkers would stand. One of the most influential was Ibn Rushd, known in the West as Averroes. Living in the 12th century, Averroes was a master of many disciplines, a physician, an astronomer, and a jurist. But his most lasting contribution was in philosophy. He wrote extensive and brilliant commentaries on the works of Aristotle, seeking to purify the Greek philosopher's ideas from later interpretations. His powerful argument that faith and reason were not enemies, but two different paths to the same truth, would profoundly influence both Jewish and Christian scholastic thought for centuries to come. In the field of medicine, the name Abu al-Qasim al-Zahrawi, or Abul Qasis, stands supreme. Working in Cordoba in the 10th century, he is often called the father of modern surgery. He wrote a 30-volume medical encyclopedia, the Al-Tasrif, which was a comprehensive guide to medical practice. Its most famous section was on surgery, where he described over 200 surgical instruments, many of which he invented himself, including the scalpel, surgical forceps, and the use of catgut for internal stitches. His book was translated into Latin and used as the standard surgical textbook in European universities for over 500 years, shaping the practice of surgery well into the Renaissance. While not born in Al-Andalus, the Persian scholar Ibn Sina, or Avicenna, had an immense impact there. His work, especially the Canon of Medicine, became the cornerstone of medical education in Al-Andalus and across the world. This colossal encyclopedia synthesized all known medical knowledge from Greek, Roman, Persian, and Indian sources and added his own clinical observations. It was so authoritative that it remained a primary medical text in Europe until the 17th century. The scholars of Al-Andalus eagerly studied, debated, and expanded upon his work, ensuring his ideas were transmitted westward and became central to the development of Western medicine. The Jewish community of Al-Andalus also produced one of the greatest minds of the Middle Ages, Moshe ben Maimon, known as Maimonides. Born in Córdoba in the 12th century, Maimonides was a brilliant physician, a theologian, and the most important Jewish philosopher of his era. He served as a court physician to the Sultan in Egypt after his family fled persecution. His philosophical masterpiece, The Guide for the Perplexed, sought to reconcile Jewish theology with the scientific and philosophical principles of Aristotle. Like his Muslim contemporary Averroes, Maimonides argued for the harmony of faith and reason, and his work had a profound influence on subsequent Jewish, Islamic, and Christian thought. One of the most remarkable features of Al-Andalus, especially during its golden age, was the unique way in which its three great religious communities, Muslims, Jews, and Christians, lived and worked together. This period of relative tolerance and cultural interplay is often referred to by the Spanish term, which, means living together. While it was not always a perfect harmony, and the relationships shifted over time, the level of interaction and mutual influence was extraordinary for the medieval world. Under the protection of the Umayyad rulers, Jews and Christians were considered people of the book, and were granted the status of, or protected peoples. This allowed them to practice their own religions and govern their own communities. This environment of relative tolerance created a fertile ground for collaboration. Scholars from all three faiths worked side by side in the great libraries and translation centers, such as the one in Toledo. A Christian scholar might translate a Greek text into Latin, while a Jewish scholar might translate it from Arabic into Hebrew, and a Muslim scholar might write a commentary on it. This shared intellectual project honestly transcended religious divisions. They were all united by a common language of scholarship, Arabic, and a shared passion for knowledge. This collaborative spirit was the engine that drove the intellectual flourishing of Al-Andalus. The cultural exchange was not limited to the elite world of scholars. It actually permeated every aspect of daily life. In the bustling markets of Córdoba, Seville, and Granada, people of different faiths bought and sold goods together. They shared musical styles, culinary tastes, and artistic motifs. Christians and Jews often adopted Arabic language and customs, becoming known as Mozarabs and Arabized Jews. They held important positions in the government, finance, and medicine, contributing their skills to the prosperity of the state. This daily interaction fostered a unique hybrid culture, a society that was, frankly, richer and more complex because of its diversity. Of course, was not a utopian paradise without conflict. The level of tolerance varied greatly depending on the rulers and the political climate. There were periods of tension and even persecution, especially under later, more fundamentalist dynasties like the Almohads and Almoravids, which caused figures like Maimonides to flee. However, what makes this so significant is not that it was perfect, but that it existed at all. For long stretches of time, Al-Andalus offered a model of a pluralistic society that stood in stark contrast to the religious uniformity demanded in much of the rest of medieval Europe, creating a space for a cultural blossom of unparalleled brilliance. The incredible wealth of knowledge accumulated in Al-Andalus did not remain confined to the Iberian Peninsula. It gradually spread northward, sparking a profound intellectual awakening in the rest of Europe. This process, often called the Great Transmission, was one of the most important events in Western history, helping to fuel the 12th century Renaissance and laying the groundwork for the later Italian Renaissance. The transfer of knowledge happened through various channels, including trade, diplomacy, and most importantly, the translation of Arabic texts into Latin. This process began in earnest as Christian kingdoms in the north started to push southward. The city of Toledo became the single most important center for this transmission of knowledge. After it was conquered by the Christian king Alfonso VI of Castile in 1085, its vast libraries filled with priceless Arabic manuscripts fell into Christian hands. Instead of destroying them, the new rulers recognized their value. The Archbishop of Toledo sponsored the creation of a great translation school, known as the School of Translators of Toledo. Here, scholars from all over Europe, men like Gerard of Cremona and Michael Scott, worked alongside local Mozarabic Christians and Jews who were fluent in both Arabic and the local Romance dialects. Working in teams, these scholars embarked on a monumental task: They translated hundreds of foundational works of science, medicine, and philosophy from Arabic into Latin, the language of scholarship in Christian Europe. They translated the medical works of al-Zahrawi and Ibn Sina, the philosophical commentaries of Averroes, and the mathematical treatises of al-Khwarizmi. They also reintroduced the works of ancient Greek masters like Aristotle, Euclid, and Ptolemy to Europe, which had been lost to the West but preserved and enriched in the Islamic world. Suddenly, European thinkers had access to a universe of knowledge they never knew existed. The impact of these translations was revolutionary. As the newly translated books spread to the fledgling universities of Bologna, Paris, and Oxford, they transformed the European curriculum. The introduction of Aristotle, through the lens of Averroes's commentaries, challenged and reshaped Christian theology. The advanced medical knowledge from the canon of medicine revolutionized healing practices. The introduction of Arabic numerals and algebra made new forms of commerce and science possible. In essence, the knowledge flowing out of Spain provided European scholars with the tools they needed to build a new intellectual world, pulling the continent out of a long period of intellectual slumber. The legacy of Al-Andalus is not just written in books, it is carved in stone, woven into art, and planted in the soil of Spain. The architectural achievements of the Moors are among their most visible and breathtaking contributions. They developed a unique style that blended Islamic traditions with local influences, characterized by intricate geometric patterns, flowing calligraphy, stunning tile work known as azulejos, and the iconic horseshoe arch. This style was designed to create spaces of beauty, tranquility, and light. The goal was not just to build structures, but to create earthly paradises that reflected a vision of heaven. This architecture was a physical expression of the culture's sophistication and love of beauty. The two most famous examples of this architectural genius are the Great Mosque of Cordoba and the Alhambra Palace in Granada. The mosque, with its forest of over 850 columns connected by double-tiered red and white arches, creates a sense of infinite space and spiritual wonder. The Alhambra, built later by the Nasrid dynasty, is a masterpiece of palace design. Its delicate stucco work, tranquil courtyards with flowing fountains like the famous Court of the Lions, and harmonious integration with the surrounding landscape make it one of the most beautiful buildings in the world. These structures continue to inspire architects and awe millions of visitors every year with their timeless elegance. The artistic influence of Al-Andalus extended beyond architecture. The Moors were masters of decorative arts. They produced exquisite textiles, especially silk, which was a major industry in cities like Almeria. Their ceramics, with intricate lusterware techniques that gave them a metallic sheen, were highly prized throughout the Mediterranean. They excelled in ivory carving, creating beautiful caskets and boxes adorned with detailed scenes of courtly life. Even music was transformed. The Moors introduced new instruments like the oud, the ancestor of the European lute, and new musical theories and styles that would eventually blend with local traditions to form the basis of Spanish flamenco. Even the land itself bears the imprint of Al-Andalus. The agricultural revolution they started had a lasting impact. The irrigation systems they built, the acequias, are still in use in many parts of Spain today, watering fields and orchards. The crops they introduced are now central to Spanish agriculture and cuisine. It's hard to imagine Spain without its groves of oranges and lemons, its rice paddies that produce the main ingredient for paella, or its fields of sugarcane. These gifts, rooted in the soil, are a living legacy of the Moorish period, a daily reminder of the culture that so profoundly shaped the Iberian landscape. The fall of Granada in 1492 did not erase the profound legacy of Al-Andalus. Its influence had already been woven deeply into the fabric of Spanish and European culture, and its echoes continue to resonate to this day. Although the new rulers, Ferdinand and Isabella, promised religious tolerance in the Treaty of Surrender, this promise was soon broken. The Spanish Inquisition was established, and Muslims and Jews were forced to convert to Christianity or face expulsion. This policy aimed to create a unified, purely Catholic Spain, but in doing so, it sought to sever the very roots of the diverse culture that had made the peninsula so extraordinary for centuries. Despite these efforts, the imprint of nearly 800 years of Moorish civilization was indelible. It lives on in the Spanish language, which contains thousands of words of Arabic origin, especially those related to science, agriculture, and administration. Words like algebra for algebra, algodon for cotton, alcalde for mayor, and aceite for oil. It survives in the music, cuisine, and customs of southern Spain. The passionate and soulful melodies of flamenco music carry distinct echoes of Arabic musical traditions. The use of ingredients like saffron, almonds, and citrus fruits in Spanish cooking is a direct inheritance from the Moorish past. The intellectual legacy of Al-Andalus is perhaps its most significant contribution to the world. The knowledge that was nurtured in its cities and transmitted to Europe helped to ignite the Renaissance and the scientific revolution. By preserving the wisdom of the ancient world and adding their own brilliant innovations, the scholars of Al-Andalus built a bridge across time, connecting antiquity to the modern world. The European rediscovery of Greek philosophy, medicine, and science was made possible largely through the Arabic translations and commentaries created in places like Cordoba and Toledo. The modern university system, with its emphasis on rational inquiry and debate, owes a great debt to this intellectual tradition. Today, the story of Al-Andalus serves as a powerful and relevant reminder. It shows us that periods of great cultural achievement are often born from moments of encounter, exchange, and collaboration between different peoples and faiths. In a world that is often divided by conflict, the memory of the convivencia offers a hopeful, if complex, model of a pluralistic society. The magnificent architecture, the scientific breakthroughs, and the rich philosophical debates of Al-Andalus are not just relics of a lost world, they are a testament to the remarkable things that can happen when cultures meet with curiosity instead of fear, creating an ornament of the world whose beauty and wisdom still enrich us all.